On today's episode, we will review The Semester of Our Discontent by Cynthia Kuhn. And then we will announce our next book. Welcome.
Hello, and welcome back to the next episode of It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club. I'm your host, Ann Dark.
Tracy Stormy.
Kathy Knight.
Yay, we're all together again. What have you done interesting?
Kathy and I had an amazing day yesterday. We attended the National Book Festival sponsored by the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Yes, it was our first time attending, and wow, what an attendance, what a show they put on. There were so many authors there.
Yeah, we attended a few panels of mystery writers that we adore. We attended Jeffrey Devers, which was amazing, and Hank Philippi Ryan.
Unfortunately, we were not able to stay for who we really wanted to see. Louise Penny was the last panelist, and unfortunately we had to leave, so we missed hers.
And we also attended David Ignatius, which was, I have never read him, but now I definitely want to check him out. So if next year, if you're in the DC area, come. So many wonderful authors attend this.
I didn't go.
We really missed Anne.
So next year I'll be there if you have to push me in a wheelchair.
I think everyone should go if they can.
Yes.
They were telling people at the beginning of each panel that the Library of Congress was recording everything.
And it will be projected on Book
right.
TV. So check that out.
Well, that's really neat.
Yes, I think you can see the shadow of our heads in one of the recordings.
Yes, definitely. Well, at first, we'll tell you a little bit about Cynthia Kuhn.
Cynthia Kuhn writes the Lila Maclean Academic Mystery Series, The Semester of Our Discontent, an Agatha Award recipient for Best First Novel. The Art of Vanishing, a Lefty Award nominee for Best Humorous Mystery, and The Spirit in Question, Her Concern, Literary Mama, Copper Nickel, Prick of the Spindle, Mama PhD, and other publications. She teaches in Denver and serves as president of Sisters in Crime, Colorado.
Okay, give you a synopsis of the book. English professor Lila Maclean is thrilled about her new job at prestigious Stonedale University until she finds one of her colleagues dead. She soon learns that everyone, from the chancellor to the detective working on the case, believes that Lila, or someone she's protecting, may be responsible for the horrific event, so she assigns herself the task of identifying the killer.
So now we're going to talk about our cast of characters, and we're going to start with our protagonist, Lila Maclean. She's a newly hired associate professor of English at Stonedale University.
Millicent Quayle is the ultra-efficient executive assistant to Dr. Roland Higgins.
Dr. Roland Higgins is the faculty head in charge of curriculum. He is pompous. He's appointed himself the gatekeeper to keep the curriculum pure. No females.
Callista James is the cousin of Lila, and she's a quirky poet.
Judith Westerly is Lila's faculty mentor. She's been at Stonedale for 30 years, and she's married to Professor Spencer Bartholomew.
Detective Lexington Archer is the detective in charge of the investigation.
Eldon Higgins is the younger brother of Roland, who takes over after Roland is found murdered.
Professor Norton Smythe is a medieval scholar. He's an ally of Roland Higgins, and he's very hostile to women as well.
Simone Raleigh is a new English professor. She's very standoffish. Her mother taught at Stonedale, and her sister was in the running for Lila's job.
Tad Rutherford is Lila's neighbor, friend, and co-worker who Roland denied his tenure, and Tad's father had to step in to go over his head.
Willa Hartwell is the drama professor. She's British, she's avant-garde, and she fights for women's literature as part of the curriculum.
Elizabetta Vega is Millicent's half-sister. She is retired, has been nominated for emeritus status. Roland wrote letters against her to punish her.
There are also quite a few minor characters in this book that we didn't mention that will come out during our discussion of the book.
So our typical disclosure when we start our review is to let you know that if you have not read the book and you don't want to find out the ending, please stop listening now. We will reveal the killer and speak about the ending of the book.
So there we go.
All right. We didn't have a live interview with Cynthia Kuhn, but she was gracious enough to answer a series of questions that we sent to her, and we thank her for doing that. And we'll go over those questions now.
We asked Cynthia what attracted her to the mystery genre. Trixie Belden and Nancy Drew are responsible mainly. I became hooked on those as a young reader, moving into Agatha Christie and Phyllis Whitney, and never looked back.
Do you have any writing rituals? Cynthia responded that she has classical music playing in the background would be her preference. More often than not, however, I forget to turn it on, so I'm not sure it counts as a ritual.
What books have fortified you as a writer? She responded, I read Rites of Passage, Adventures on the Writer's Journey, edited by Hank Philippi Ryan, when I was working on my first mystery and feeling uncertain about my next steps. The stories from Sisters in Crime authors within that anthology, it's inspired me to keep going.
How do you think e-readers have changed reading? Do you prefer an e-reader or book? Love paperbacks. I can see why e-readers are so popular. It's especially fabulous that you can carry a library around with you at all times and order new books in seconds. I totally agree.
There are times when e-readers are better because you can go in with link to different things you can look up as you're reading.
But not all of them, right?
Yeah,
Well, not all
that's
of
what
them,
he
but-
said.
Tell us about some of the challenges you faced in getting your first book published. The process was a juggling act, finding time to write, working on revisions, going to conferences, taking classes, meeting with critique groups, participating in writers' organizations, and so on, while attempting to keep up with my full-time job and parenting duties. There were days when the whole thing seemed downright impossible. That sounds very true to life.
Well, it was very interesting at the book festival yesterday. A lot of authors touched on editing and the processes they go through. So that's another tip that if you can get to the book festival, you can get some tips on that kind of stuff.
Our last question was, if you could choose any author to write your biography, who would it be and why? She replied, Nora Ephron, who was so very talented and funny. If someone were going to be forced to read my biography, it should at least offer them some humor. Plus, When Harry Met Sally is one of my favorite films, so I'm factoring that in. That was really a good answer. Nora Ephron was so talented.
yes.
I think she could make anybody sound humorous.
Yes. We thank her very much for taking time to answer these questions. And so we will get into our discussion of the book. Tracy.
Well, when I choose a book to read, I am not normally drawn to...
Community. There's murder.
I pace myself with cozies. I try not to read too many of them in a row. They have the same format. And this one definitely followed that. As soon as Roland was a jerk, I knew we were going to find him murdered. It was just a matter of a couple pages and boom, there he goes.
Yeah. You can usually spot the person who's going to be the victim.
if I'm looking for an easy read, like something to take to the beach, this is a great book for that. Or if you don't have a lot of time, you can breeze through one of these. It's not that they don't have a place. I tend to be drawn more to darker, more sink your teeth into it kind of mysteries.
Now, the setting of this book made it a little bit different. Normally, cozies take place in a small town or in a certain area, and the idea of having it in a university was very clever, I thought, and having all the characters, faculty members and staff at the university. That was a little different, and I liked that idea.
I agree. I was drawn to the premise of having an academic mystery, so to speak. I am very fond of the academic world. I imagine myself somewhat of an academic. However, I have never worked at a university, so a lot of what was portrayed was news to me. Although I had heard some friends who have worked at universities talking about the faculty there, and it's not far off the mark from what I can tell.
Right. I worked at a university for 4 years, and the tenure process can be very brutal. At some places, we'll have 6 slots that are due for tenure, and only 10 people are up for it, and they have to really work at it. It is a stepping stone that every professor is usually working toward, but it's very limited in its scope.
I think the first question we should ask ourselves, jumping ahead, is, was Archer adept at solving these murders?
No.
No, and neither was Lila, for that matter.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, as our
The
protagonist,
kind of tripped into the story, and again
It was quite a surprise.
yes, it was. We were not given the information to solve this. Nobody. You could take a guess. You could have taken a stab
Right.
at it. But at one point in this book, because after you read mysteries for so long, you just automatically, okay, well, it's this person. And I had Willa, so I will give Cynthia some credit. I guess that's kind of a red herring. She gave us information that never went anywhere.
well, I picked Millicent immediately because it's always a character in the background, and Millicent was just super efficient. And I didn't have any information to give me that, but it's just based on
Your Spidey skills.
my Spidey skills picked out Millicent, but I had no reason to. And anybody who is looking for clues,
They would have been wasting their time.
you don't find out any clues to the reasons why or who until the last chapter. And that was one of the things I really disliked about the book.
And Millicent pretty much solved the murder herself because she reveled herself at the end.
Well,
I
that's,
did it.
and then she proceeded to tell everybody everything.
Yes.
But I did it, and here's why. And her reasoning was so
Off the wall.
off the wall. It was just, if she bothered to ever talk to her sister.
The reason was that she thought these people were friends of Elizabetta, who turned out to be her sister, which wasn't revealed
Betty.
until right, until Millicent told you she was her sister. She thought that her friends Willa and Judith should have been more accommodating. They should have gone to see her more often after Elizabetta's partner had died, even though Elizabetta had said she wanted to be left alone because she was grieving and needed to process.
And her friends respected her wishes. They were right there if she ever wanted them.
They even said they had reached out to
They
her
had
several
reached
times.
out to her, but Millicent decided that to get revenge, she was going to murder these people. But I don't know why. She worked for this guy. I guess he was such an ass she couldn't stand him. But she was going to frame Judith and
Callista
Callista and Willa.
I thought it was interesting about the necklaces. She kept getting these notes to wear
the
this necklace
on Tuesday.
And I'm thinking, if I would have got a note like that and Roland had been killed, I would think, oh, is somebody trying to set me up? Or I would have been calling the police first off.
Yeah.
I would have been showing that note to the detective, because she automatically assumes they think she's guilty.
Yeah.
Because she found